Good people, good people. Happy Saturday. Good morning still. I think we have a couple more minutes before it's afternoon. Good morning. Welcome to Conversations with Chike Evans, and I am hosting Mr. Timon Bacon today. He is a Sony music executive. He is also one of the co-hosts from one of my favorite podcasts, We Sound So Crazy. What's up, Montreal? Shout out to Montreal Ross, my homie. We just did a thing with Miss Faith Renee Evans in Newark, New Jersey. The Writers Room Inc. inaugural ball. We had so much fun. It was a blast. It was an honor, and it did my heart and my spirit so much good to be a part of such a great event and to have my brother there with me. Just waiting for Mr. Bacon to come on in. He just popped in the room. I love punctual people. Okay. Prayed up. Stay prayed up. If you are praying people during this time, I want you to stay prayed up.
Hey,
Mr. Bacon,
what's up? I did it. I did
you
it.
did
I did it. I did it. Listen, this is like the third time I've ever gone live
it. Okay.
in the history of Instagram. So yeah, I was like, "Ooh, am I gonna do this right?" But I did it.
But
So
you
I'm
know
just
what I
trying to.
find ironic? That's normal. When normally when I interview people, they don't normally do Instagram live. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
How are
having
you
me.
today, sir?
I'm good. I'm trying not to bounce off the walls. I've had like 2 cups of coffee already this morning. I've been up and at it. So,
It's
but
all
I'm
right.
good.
It's all right. It's all right.
How are
You
you?
wanna because I don't want your head cut off. I want them to get a good look at you. You know how your nana say, "Come here, let me get a good look at you."
Am I good? Can y'all
You're
see me?
great. You're great.
Okay. Okay.
All right. First of all, I want to thank you for coming on my platform saying yes, because you didn't have to. I do get some no's. That's okay.
Oh, I'm a big fan of conversations with Chike, just by the way.
Oh,
Like,
really? Okay.
yeah, like I during the pandemic, I remember I think I saw your interview. I think you interviewed Faith Evans back then. Like when we were in the thick of the was it
So I
Faith?
did interview her during the pandemic. What you probably saw was an older interview that I posted on here. My interview
Gotcha.
with Faith just happened a couple weeks ago, right before her Writers Room gala.
Got it. And
Yeah.
then I saw the interview you did with Dawn.
Yes.
And I just, I'm always trying to find, people that talk to people that we love, but have like
Hmm.
a different perspective, different questions instead of
Yeah.
the run of the mill, um, PR questions. So,
Yes.
um, I thought your interviews were very engaging. So I was just like even shocked when you reached out. You was like, "Hey, you want to?" I'm like, "Oh, bet I'll do it." So yeah,
Great.
thank you
Well,
for
I
having
thank
me.
you. And for all the reasons that you just mentioned is why I love what you do because
Oh
out
wow.
of I've interviewed Phil. He's been on my
Okay.
other podcast that I work on, the Stephen Knight Show, and I've interviewed Claude and Chuck both, well as Louis York on
Yeah.
Conversations with Chick Evans. So you are the host on that show that brings out me on what I would ask.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's my
Yeah.
guy. That's the one.
Wow.
So I
Wow. Wow.
appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot. It does.
So let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to your beginnings. And I guess one of the first things that I want to know, because the base of why you're here is because we have this love for music.
Right.
What was the biggest musical inspiration that you can remember going all the way back? Like, what is the
The
thing that you can remember that first grabbed you and took a hold of your spirit?
Whitney Houston,
Okay.
period.
Okay.
I was born in the thick of like when Whitney Houston debuted in '85. I was born at the end of '86, so she was already a superstar by the time I came along. But I remember being super young, like when you're starting to recognize the world around you, and you starting to create those first memories. I just remember hearing this lady on the radio all the time. I didn't know what her name was, but every time, and like you can ask my family, like when I was little, this lady would come on TV or I would hear her voice on the radio, and I would just stop whatever I was doing.
Wow.
And um and then just to get a look, like I remember just being captivated by how she looked in the videos or whatever. So like Whitney Houston was the first person that I saw and heard. I was just like, oh wow. And then I would hear her in interviews talk about like, oh, I love BB and CC. So I'm like, well, who is that kind of thing? And so you know, my folks would tell me, "Oh, this is BB and CC. They're singing the song "Addictive Love," and she would talk about like Layla Hathaway and just all of these different people that she was listening to. And because I was such a big fan of her, I'm like, well, her musical taste has to be amazing because she's so talented. So, but that's like my first memory of just like loving an artist, and she's been with me to this day. Like I've never stopped loving Whitney Houston.
Okay. And so you just kind of explained, because I was going to ask you, and how did that grow? And part of why I do what I do and what drives me is inspiration. It's why you're here today. You inspire me.
Okay.
Um, and that is the same formula in which I move. You know, if my favorite artist has a favorite artist, then I'm
Right.
checking out that favorite artist and then that favorite artist and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Um, moving forward in your inspiration, what about the business of you progressing in your life draws you to be in the business of music?
Well, I will say that I grew up thinking that I was gonna like be an artist. I came of age in the era of like Usher and Babyface and like the '90s. So naturally, I was trying to model myself after a lot of the male singers. Luther Vandross is still here, so I would sing a lot of his songs in talent shows. And then when I was put on to Donny Hathaway, I wanted to sing like that. And so I thought I was going to be an artist. And then when I was around 19, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to kind of be in the forefront like an artist needs to be.
Hmm.
And so, but I knew I still wanted to be in and around music. And so, I always knew that I wanted to be in the business in some form or fashion, like in high school, but I really made the decision to really go after the business side of the music industry
Hmm.
um, in college. So my junior year, I started interning for Atlantic Records. Um, and I was a regional. They used to do like I don't even know if they still do this anymore, but they did like a regional college internship thing where they would have people from different regions kind of promoting their projects in that specific market. So I was in Columbia, South Carolina, so I had to go to all of the colleges in the area and put up posters and go to all the mom and pop shops and put up posters and go to the radio stations whenever artists would come in town. So that was like my first experience in learning how to interact with artists and just
Can
kind
we
of
shout out your
learning.
alma mater for a minute? Shout out your alma mater. Where did you go?
Yeah, shout out to the great Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina. One of the finest HBCUs in the land. But yeah, I was at, of course, on my campus at USC. Allen is right across the street. Columbia College. So all of the colleges, I was riding around the city, just trying to promote these artists. I remember it was like around the 2008, 2009 era. So I remember they were pushing the song "Mano High Hater" really hard, and then that was around the time Ti's Paper Trail had come out, and it was around the first Obama election. So I remember getting people to sign up to vote, and I would give them a free CD kind of thing. That was back when CDs was still a thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was like the first thing that I did in the industry, and then I just kind of went from there and just started trying to figure out how I can plant myself in certain situations to be exposed to the music industry from there.
Yeah. Who was the first big artist that you met?
Ooh, first big artist that I met. Trying to, I, I don't know if they were the first, but my first recollection was meeting the late great Angie Stone.
Mm.
But it had nothing to do with my internship. I was still, I still sing from time to time, but back then I was really still singing, like singing in talent shows. And my godmother, God rest her soul, she was doing like a local talent show in Columbia, South Carolina, and she wanted me to sing for it. And so Angie Stone was like the featured artist for that night. So she
Mhm.
closed out the whole show. And that was around the time when her song with Betty Wright was like all over the radio. And so she performed that record. And I remember she said to me backstage, she was just like, she said, "You have a really nice voice."
Mhm.
She said, "I hope to hear from you someday," or something to that effect. And so it was kind of cool to have somebody like Angie Stone say like, yo, your voice is dope," kind of thing. But that was the first person that I remember meeting. Yeah. And then shortly after that, I think the second person that I met was Jasmine Sullivan. Yeah.
Yeah. How dope is Jasmine? I met Jasmine when she was 14 years old, and she's so unassuming as a person. Because not saying that she can't be sweet, but she's so sweet
Yeah.
and she's demure in her presence. And then when she gets on the mic, this lion comes out, and she's such a beast artistically that
I see. I feel like you probably got more of a sense of who she is than I did because
okay,
I met her backstage after one of her performances, and my whole MO was to get, excuse me, my whole MO was to get backstage and try to get her to come to our homecoming concert.
okay,
So this was like 2000, fall 2008, right when I Need You Bad was taking off. And I was like, it'd be dope if we could get her to our school to perform. And so I was backstage per my internship, and
hmm
I just kind of used that to talk to different people. And I introduced myself to her management at the time. And I was on SGA at Benedict, and I was like, "Hey, I'm first vice president of SGA at Benedict College. We'd love for you to come and perform at our homecoming this October." It didn't really work out. There's a lot of story behind why it didn't work out, and I'm still upset about that to this day,
yeah,
almost 20 years later. But it ended up not working out. But that let me know like these are just regular people,
hmm
and she was cool in the moment, but I didn't really get a chance to like really connect with her, and I would
okay,
love that opportunity one day. But yeah.
yeah. Talk about that a little bit since you brought it up. The business of trying to negotiate and get artists to be in a space that you don't control, but you have to be the face for that negotiation. It's difficult.
Yeah, it can be difficult at times. I think in working with Phil, actually, he's just kind of watching him and how he's navigated working with different, like I watch him and I've learned the psychology
hmm
of working with artists and how you kind of have to make sure they're in the right headspace to like, this is gonna sound crazy, but get whatever you need from them in that moment.
hmm
Because if they're not, 9 times out of 10, you have some artists that will just kind of do what they need to do, even if they're not having the best day, and those
hmm
people are great as well. But there are other folks where if they're not feeling it that day, if it's just they're not feeling it, they're not gonna give you what you need from them. Especially when you work for a label and you're trying to get marketing stuff together for this project that's about to come out. You're trying to get them to do radio interviews, and it's just like we got all these stations lined up, and they're just like, "Hey, I'm not feeling it today." And it's just like, but these interviews are contingent upon whether you're gonna get airplay or not, that kind
It's
of thing.
true.
So
This is true.
it can be difficult, but I also think um, kind of letting them get to know you, like if you're constantly with them and they can kind of gain that trust, like giving them a soft place to land. Like that was one of the things that I learned from Phil. Like he always was a man of his word with artists. Like when he told an artist he was going to do something, he did it. And
hmm
that helped to build the trust with that particular artist, especially if they were somebody that he was just getting to know. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So for me, I like if I was working on if an artist was just being signed to a label and I'm like, well, I feel like we can do this, this, and this for your project, I try to at least deliver on a couple of the things that I said I wanted to deliver. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of helps to build the trust. Um, and then when if I'm ever on the road with them, like just making sure they have what they need. Not being a fan, because a lot of
Hmm.
times when you kind of walk into the situation, like yes, we all have people that we grew up loving and that we listen to their music, but when it's time to be professional and work, you can't walk up in there being a fan. You gotta, hey, you have everything you need. Um, Not babysitting, but to a certain extent, like catering to whatever their needs are, because they're sometimes they're people super creative, and sometimes they're just in a vulnerable space, especially when they're getting off stage, and especially with gospel artists, they're giving everything that they have. So
Hmm.
you just kind of have to be cognizant of all of that, and I think it comes with just time and working with artists. Like you're not gonna not a lot of people will know how to operate with artists off the bat. Like you just have
Right.
to kind of get in there, roll your sleeves up, and bump your head a couple times, and then hopefully it'll eventually come to you. So
True. True.
yeah,
And then a lot of times in my own experience, and like kind of like you said, it's like understanding innately the boundaries.
right.
Because if you come in like a fan, that's not the right. That's never the right mode.
And there
It's the
will,
right mode for that moment, but then that moment quickly dissipates.
and if you work with them long enough, there will be moments where you can just kind of let them know, like, yo, you know, I love this record, or I
Hmm.
grew up listening to you. Like there will be moments where you're able to kind of communicate to them, like, this is how you inspired me and that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
when it's time to work, all of the fan stuff has to kind of be put on the back burner for that particular moment. So,
Absolutely. And so, how did you find your way to the podcast?
oh, so, ugh, trying to remember the how it all came together, and I feel like everybody's story is kind of slightly different. But I remember, um, back in like 2018, Phil hit me on a Saturday and was like, "Hey, what you doing today?" I was like, "Nothing." He was like, "I'm going by Chuck and Claude's studio," because I had always talked to him about how much I loved Claude Kelly and Chuck Harmony's work individually and together. And so he
Hmm.
was like, "You should come by the studio, or whatever. We just gonna sit around and they can probably play some new records or whatever." So I went, um, and that was the first time I had an opportunity to really sit and talk with them, and just we talked about music. I think they ordered like fried rice. We sat around and just had food, and we were talking. It was like I looked up and it was like 5.5, 6 hours. We did that a second time, and I remember Claude saying, he was like, "This should be a podcast." And it was like, yeah. So we intentionally a third time came back, and and our producer Mike Guru Johnson, shout out to Guru, he just hit record on the conversation, and like that first conversation became like the first 2 or 3 episodes. Back then it was
Wow.
just audio only. This was in
Yeah.
like 2015, 2019, I believe, right before the pandemic. And then as we started to get our groove going with like putting out episodes, the pandemic happened, and we were just kind of trying to figure out how we were going to navigate being at home. We tried to do the virtual thing; it didn't necessarily work out for us. We did some things virtually, but we knew that we worked better being in the room with each other. So we, before before it was approved for us to go back outside, we were kind of sneaking off to the studio to try to get podcast episodes and that kind of thing. And Phil would call his friends, Claude would call his friends, call different people that we could talk to. And then it just kind of started to build from there. People started saying, "Hey, we want more episodes. We want weekly
Hmm.
episodes." And the whole radio, we started, devising a plan. So now we're in like a few markets throughout the country weekly on radio. And we started adding the video component. And so by the time we get to 2021, it's like a full-fledged operation, between the video podcast, the actual audio podcast, radio. Like it's become bigger than what I had ever anticipated. So yeah, it's definitely something that I use as a means to um, it's an outlet for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's because I work in the business and I'm constantly in meetings and looking at data and having to deal with metadata and having to deal with just the super heady businessy stuff. Like we have to do that with the podcast as well, but the podcast is a way for me to really just kind of sit around and do what I love, and that's talk about music. And
Mm-hmm.
I get to meet some of my favorite artists in the process. So
Yeah. Yeah. What about music? If you can pinpoint it, what qualities does the music have to have in order for it to reach your spirit for that inspiration
oh,
to happen?
I don't even know if I can really pinpoint anything. I just know it. Like when I hear it, I just know
Hmm.
what it is. Like, um, I can say that I'm a big fan of like just harmonies, really good harmonies. Um, of course, people that can sing, um, really dope melodies, like catchy melodies that you kind of walk away still singing after you
Hmm.
haven't listened to the song for a couple hours. Like I'm still singing a melody 2 hours later, and it makes you want to go back and listen to the song again. Um, yeah, it's just it's not one thing. It's just when I hear a song, I'm like,
Hmm.
that's it right there. So it's just, it really depends.
Yeah, one of the things that stick out for me because well, early on, I think my first foray
Mhm.
into music was when I was younger. I used to play the clarinet,
Yeah,
so that was my introduction. I learned how to read music and I learned how to play it. Um, the whole movement of things. I like
yeah,
songs with a lot of movement,
yeah,
and I've learned the I guess the parameters of difficulty. Like the more
hmm
intricate and the more difficult the music is, I have more respect for it because I knew what it took to make it. So
yeah,
it impresses me more. And
yeah.
so for that reason, and also too, I was also a hip hop dancer very young on.
Okay.
And hip hop tracks are kind of flat. It's the beat, it's the driving beat, it's
Yeah,
the break beat in a song, and it's normally the part to give everybody else a rest except the band. The band,
yeah,
that's their moment to shine, and it's normally steady. So I was accustomed to listening to that being a dancer. But
mm,
the musician part appreciated the movement. So if you can bring something to me that has a lot of movement and that solid base is strong, I'm already in love with it.
yeah.
That's the
I'm
building formula to make me respond to it.
see when I say that I love harm, that's like I'm a huge Brandy fan, right?
Oh my God, yes.
And I think she was one of the first people. Like I loved harmonies before Brandy, but like Brandy was the person that made me listen to music in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, and I just loved how I could listen to her song and I would never like I could always find something new in a particular Brandy song each time I listened to it because it was so layered and so nuanced.
Mhm.
And so to your point about just complexity, like, before Brandy, it was just like, okay, I like a song because of what it said or, the beat. But like after Brandy, it was just like I remember being 15 when Full Moon came out, and the day March 5th, 2002, I'll never forget it. The day that that record came out, I was in ninth grade, and I had my mom take me to Best Buy to buy that album. I went in my room, not knowing what I was gonna get from this record. We had already heard the singles, the What About Us single, but I went in my room and put that CD in, and my mom literally had to like tell me to come out of my room later that night and eat because I was like, what is this? Like, I just could
Exactly.
not. And it was like they say, full moon is never say never on steroids. It was literally
Yeah.
that for me. I'm like, in this 2 to 3 year period that she's been gone, Moesha's ended. Like, she has found a new dimension in her voice that she's like,
Hmm.
she's tapping into everything. And so all that to say, Brandy was kind of like the person that made me fall in love with just complex stuff. And as a person in the business, I sometimes have to dial that back because I understand that the common music listener, they don't get all of that. They don't get into the
Exactly.
whole complexity of it
Exactly.
all. They just want simple. They want to keep it simple, stupid. And so I know there have been times where an artist that I love as a singer, they will probably play something for us at the label, and I'm like, the music head side of me is just like, this is dope. But then the business side of me, the marketing guy is like, okay, how will the common music listener relate to this? Like,
Hmm.
is so it's definitely twofold for me in that regard. So
You're talking to a person being 10 years old, I fell in love with, and the first person, I guess, musically that I fell in love with was Angela Bofill. And you know how
yeah,
complex her music was. And this is me at 10
yeah,
years old. And I have her album on repeat.
yeah,
And then I guess the next person that I dove into like that was Prince, who's another complex musician.
yeah.
So those are the levels that I live on. And it was hard. And I went through my pop phase, but pop music really doesn't do anything for me unless it's like it has to be like Hey Ya. Hey Ya is super catchy. It was
Yeah.
a super big song. Components that have to be there for me to like gravitate toward it. But other than that, I'm not really a pop fan. But
Okay.
you can give me classical music any day because it's complex.
Hmm.
You can give me an operatic overture. It's complex. And of course, like you said, that full moon. And I will bring this up about full moon. And I say this to people and they look at me sideways. But if you really pay attention to it, and I know you know, it's all one long song.
Song.
There is
Yes.
no break
Yeah.
in that whole project. Makes
Yeah.
it to me one of the greatest, projects ever done.
I went during our Rodney Jerkins interview. I remember saying to him, like, for a lot of us, like we listen to albums,
Hmm.
prior to Full Moon. That's of course, but I think with like Never Say Never, Full Moon for people in my generation, like that was one of the first times like we started to really cling to bodies of work. We had to like Brandy to me is an albums artist,
Hmm.
and I kind of caught on to it with Never Say Never, but Full Moon, that was when I was like fully locked in. So it's like I'm always kind of like when she releases her singles, I'm like I just know that there's more depth beyond this first single because I don't always agree with her single choices. Um, but I'm like I just know that there's gonna be just this experience when I get this body of work from Brandy. And that's why I don't mind when she goes away for 10 years and then she comes back with a body of work because I just
I
know.
mean, and to be honest, I'm older than you, but that's what I'm
Yeah,
used to. Artists didn't
yeah,
create, singles every other month. That wasn't a
right,
thing. It took
right.
like 6, 7 years between each album in order for us to get a project from an artist. So that's what I'm used to. And then they're always amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like I I prefer that because I grew up in the 90s where an album came out and they worked it for 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Janet working Rhythm Nation from 1989 all the way to like 91. And then
Yeah, yeah,
she took a year or two off to make the next record, and then she's
right.
promoting that record for another 4 or 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's I'm I'm because of people like Brandy, and they kind of helped me tap into the super creative artist artistic bag. I guess I should say. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. How do you feel about I mean, it is your business, but how do you feel about the direction in which the business is moving and how that
Ooh,
affects artists today?
ooh. Um, I I get it, but I'm also how can I say this? It's such a complex question, and I have conversations all the time with just industry colleagues and just people in general. But um, I'm still just trying to, like, with AI and all that stuff. Like, I'm just still trying to figure out how I can apply that to what I do every day.
Hmm.
Um, I can be stubborn sometimes, and kind of, I'm always reminiscing on what used to be and how things were back in the day and that kind of things. It's just like sometimes I have to pull myself out of that and say, all right, Timon, it's not 2004 anymore. Like, we gotta, come up to present day and then figure out how we can use some of the tools that we have to move to the next level. So I don't always. I'm still trying to get used to some of the things, I will say, like AI and just the way that. And I'm a big advocate. I want people to thrive, and I'm a big advocate for like songwriters getting their due and that kind of thing. So when I hear of like DSPs not properly paying
Right.
songwriters, and songwriters still, you got people that have major hits on albums, but they're still broke and can't pay their bills, kind of thing. Like, it's kind of disheartening, to say the least. But yeah, it's the nature of the beast. It's the business we're in, business I'm in, and um, I have to just kind of learn how to adapt. And that's
Yeah.
that's a part of the business where I had to get with really quick. Like, you have to adapt. You
Yeah.
cannot stay stuck with doing something one way. You have to kind of move with the times. And so, um, yeah, it's sometimes, I always say, sometimes it feels like the business that I didn't want to, like, I grew up wanting to be in the music industry, but I don't know if this is the industry that I grew up wanting to be in. And
Right.
that's just me being honest. Because I feel like so many people that are super talented that I feel like have good music, they're just often overlooked. But some of the most crass stuff is like, for whatever reason, it gets people's attention, and it's like the biggest thing ever. And I just sometimes don't always understand it. But and that's somebody that works in the business every day, and I worked in marketing, and I worked on MBA and just all these different departments, and it's just like I sometimes still don't get it. So yeah.
From your professional standpoint, what advice would you give to someone who may not want to be like a recording artist, but who would like a publishing deal and trying to write music and get placement?
Um, I always say you just kind of got to get out there and figure it out. Like, you can't wait until you have this. I think a lot of times we psych ourselves out by saying, well, as soon as I'm able to get this amount of money or get this equipment or do this, I can start my journey toward being a songwriter. Like, no, you just kind of got to roll your sleeves up and get out there and just figure out. Of course, do your research. Um, Google is there for a reason. Um, Go to where the action is. You can't be in, and that's one thing that I had to learn about the industry. Like, I'm from Macon, Georgia, and I knew that I could not, just with me wanting to be on the business side of the industry, I could not make that happen living in Macon, Georgia. So
Right.
the next best thing was moving to Atlanta, Georgia, where at the time the music industry was, and the music industry is still thriving in Atlanta, but back then it was like there were still studios in Atlanta. You had a lot of satellite offices of the label still in Atlanta. So you're still able to kind of go to different events and mix and mingle with people that are in the business. Um, but I always tell people, like, do your research. Like, anytime someone asks me, I'm like, hey, are you signed up with a BMI or ASCAP or a CSAC? Those
Hmm.
performance rights organizations, they're always, I know I was an intern with ASCAP back in the day.
Hmm.
They were always having events for up and coming songwriters. And I've seen people go from being an unknown songwriter to becoming a songwriter on some of the biggest records ever. And they're like paid like crazy current day. So it's you just kind of got to get out there and figure it out. Find somebody that you trust, that can kind of um, show you the business and show you what you need to do in terms of, going to different events or signing up for ASCAP, or, you know, a lot of times people get their publishing deals through entities like an ASCAP because they're able to
Hmm.
meet different people that are connected to those organizations. So there's not one way to do it, but I just always say just roll your sleeves up and get out there and figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, you can't it won't happen if you're always at home. You got to get out and talk to people. And this is coming from someone that's super introverted, that I'm a homebody. I'm like, all this rent I'm paying, I want to, you know, get my money's worth, but I also have to force myself to get out and talk to people. And so that's, you got to start somewhere. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
So, what has being on television brought you?
Oh, being on television, I don't, I just still kind of move like normal. I think, of course, it's brought me more, notoriety. Like I live in Nashville, so I was at Opry Mills Mall like
Hmm.
maybe 6 months ago, and somebody stopped me as I was walking out of J. Crew, so that was different for me. um, so it's definitely brought more eyes and ears. Um, you grow up talking about music and having these, you talk shop about music and having these discussions, and you finally let the world in on it, and you just never think people would like look to you for your opinion about certain things. And it's
Hmm.
just like, people are really caring about what I say about certain things or
Hmm.
certain artists or certain albums. So that's still taking some getting used to.
Okay.
um and yeah, I of course, more opportunities.
Yeah.
um I get invited to do things like this, more panels. People want to hear what I have to say, and I don't take that lightly at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you gone back to your alma mater yet to speak?
Not in the last few years. I haven't gone to speak per se, but I've like done a couple music industry things here and there. Like I
Okay.
helped bring a couple artists to the school and that kind of thing. So, but that was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. But um I haven't been back to speak,
Okay.
but I hope to be able to do that at some point
Yeah.
in the near future.
I don't know. I have a feeling that that might be coming. That I have a thing for that kind of stuff.
Hey, I'm open to it. And another thing, like now that I know that I'm on like this major platform and we've really built something special, like um in the spirit of not taking it lightly, like I've even enrolled into like a Toastmasters course just to,
No,
you
smart.
know, get better at, public speaking. I took a lot of public speaking classes in college, but when you haven't really exercised that muscle in a long time,
Hmm.
um, in terms of like the technical proper ways to do things and
Hmm.
keep an audience engaged, um, you kind of lose it a little bit. And so I've enrolled into a Toastmasters course. I find different people on TV or on social media that I kind of want to model myself after, or if
Hmm.
there's someone that kind of speaks seamlessly that I see, I'm like, okay, I want to be able to communicate like that. So I've kind of taken just the art of communication more seriously since We Sound Crazy really taken off the way that it has. Like when we
Yeah.
got the Emmy nomination, I'm like, okay, this is bigger than what I ever anticipated. Like I'm thinking we just sitting at the studio, somebody press record, we put out a little podcast episode here and there, but like it's now on television, it's on radio. Like people are texting me all the time saying they're LOLing at something I might have said on the radio. Like it's crazy. So it's still something that I'm getting used to, but I'm also just trying to capitalize on the moment
Yeah.
and really get better at, just communicating. So yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about the Emmy of it all, like that, the feeling around that, and the excitement, and the vibe and the energy. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Oh my God. So we were for a period of time, the episodes were airing on Peachtree TV in Atlanta. Um, and just out of the blue, I think we knew that they were submitting, a lot of stuff from that particular network to
Hmm.
the regional Emmys chapter. But you kind of see the email, you see the notification about it, and you just kind of keep moving on with your life. Well, weeks later, we get the notification that we got the Emmy nomination. So I'm like, okay, what does this mean? So I'm like, okay, do I need to get a tux? Do I need to, like, what's happening? And so we ended up going to the ceremony in Atlanta. Of course, we didn't take it home, but it was just like to be in that room, to see the Emmy statue, to just be in and around that energy was just crazy. And it really, as I was sitting there, I was like, yo, this, like, dreams really do come true.
Hmm.
And and I don't want to offend anyone by what I'm about to say, but I'm super spiritual, and I really feel like God, he plants visions in your mind, or he gives you the idea, or he like, I knew from a child that I was supposed to be in music, but I feel like his plan for me is bigger than anything that I could ever dream of in my mind. And so it's like, Timon, you've continued to do the work, and you kind of followed your purpose. And so this is what
Hmm.
happens as a result of that.
Yeah,
And so that just let me know, like, Timon, just keep going. Even when we didn't win, I was just like, this is only the beginning. Like, it's just, and so that was my energy leaving that the
yeah,
ceremony. Like, this is, I was still leaving out of the room with a big smile on my face, because I'm like, this is such a great opportunity to even be invited to sit at. And it
amen.
wasn't the main Emmy show, but it was they do the regional ceremonies.
Yeah,
Um, and it was just dope to be there. And so I just kind of walked out of that room with a big smile on my face, knowing that what we were doing was impacting lives. Like,
yeah,
still, like, even in this moment talking about it, it's just crazy to me.
yeah,
We were not
yeah.
for an Emmy. It's just crazy. But yeah.
And so that goes back to what I was talking about when we first started about
Yeah.
inspiration. And part of why I like to get people to tell their story
Hmm.
is to it's a testimony to others that may be on a path. And what I've learned, all the people that I've ever talked to, which is synonymous with everyone, is
Hmm.
if you have a calling or if you have an inkling, like you said, you always wanted to be in music in some way, form, or fashion.
Yeah.
Whatever your calling is, whatever you do naturally is your gift. All you have to do is lean into it. Lean
Yes.
into it and see where it will take you. And if you have faith about that leaning, the Father is not going to take you in the wrong direction.
Listen, there's a reason why if you wake up every day and you can't stop thinking about it, then that you're supposed to act on that thing.
Hmm.
Um, I remember when we interviewed Fawn Weaver, and she said, and I'm paraphrasing because, of course, I don't remember verbatim what she said, but um, she was saying, if whatever it is that you wanted to do at 5 years old,
That part.
that's the thing that you're supposed to do. And I think far too often, um, life happens to so many of us, and we have that thing that we're passionate about as as children or as a child. And you might have family members that tell you, you just need to go get a regular job and go get insurance and just go to work and clock in at a 9 to 5 and just buy your house and have your
Yep.
children and get married and let that be that. Um, I knew that wasn't my life. Like, I'm like, I got to get away from Macon, Georgia. And I knew going to college was going to be kind of like that window for me to just
Hmm.
go out in the world and figure it out. But I I just feel like if you have that vision, you know in your heart of hearts, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be a doctor. I'm supposed to be a lawyer. I know that I'm
Hmm.
supposed to be whatever it is. There's a way to get there, and it's
Yeah.
not going to be easy. You might have to be hungry. You might have to, it's just you're going to have to go through some stuff
Hmm.
to get to where you're trying to go, but eventually you'll be able to kind of look back and say, you know what, I'm here, and I'm all the better for being able to go through all of that stuff to get to where I am today. And I still have to remind myself of that to this day.
Hmm.
Um, there are some things that I'm working on now, and I'm just like, sometimes I have to like constantly tell myself, like, Timon, you can do it. Like, you've already made it this far.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
keep going. So yeah. And I know that's
Yeah.
like super cliche. You hear that all the time for people watching, you see that and hear that all the time, but it's like it's really true. Like I truly believe that if you have a vision, you just gotta write that thing down and just start plowing away at the different things to make that thing happen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I will add that it's never going to be easy.
Yeah.
You'll have moments that come seamlessly. There'll be moments, and they
Yeah.
can be misleading because they will come a little easier to you. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it's going to be a arduous journey, and you're going to have to really dig down and apply yourself. But the other part that I don't want people to get discouraged of is that it may not turn out to be exactly how you envisioned.
That part. Yeah. Yeah.
And you may
Yeah.
not get in the way that you think you're going to get into whatever that is. You know,
Yeah.
there's a basement door, there's cracks in the wall, there's a
Yeah.
window upstairs, there's a hole in the sidewall.
Yeah.
Anywhere that you can get in, you can find yourself to have access to where you want to go, take it. And again, it's not always going to look exactly like the way you envision. When I was 10, I
Mm.
wanted to be a scientist and I wanted to be a journalist, right? You
Okay.
see where I'm at. You see what I'm
Right.
doing, right?
Yeah.
My other profession is I'm an anesthesia technologist. So
Oh
I'm not
wow.
exactly a scientist, but I am in the medical field.
Yeah.
And when I actually thought about that, because someone told me like the same thing you heard, but the age for me was they said 10. So when you were 10, whatever you wanted to do at 10 years old, 9 times out of 10, if you were on the right path, you'll be in that space as an adult. Ups and downs, rounds and abouts. I did all these things. And the whole college thing took me in a different direction, but the calling brought me back to entertainment. It brought
Mm.
me into medical, and it brought me into, which was my nucleus of things, the inspiration part. How is that going to manifest itself? And I like to think that I'm living the embodiment of what that was.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's for me, it was like to your point. I remember working, interning at ASCAP, thinking I was going to get this illustrious job working for the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. That's the actual meaning of the acronym for those that don't know. Um, and it never worked out. To I was a great intern, but it just never worked out to where I was going to get a job, and so I had to go and get a job in finance world and banking. I hated it, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go to law school.
But
So
let
I
me ask
started.
you that though. Let me ask you
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
What nutrients did you pick up on the way in that journey because you were supposed to be there for a reason? There was something that was going on there that you had to get.
Yeah, so I will say working in banking, that helped me deal with like because in banking you're dealing with confidential information.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always, especially if the bank, I won't say the bank's name, but the bank I was working for was going through a lot of stuff, in the news at the time. Um, and so, you kind of had to remain hush hush about what was happening, but you also had to just it's a lot of confidential information that you're working with. So like now working in the music industry and on the BA side of things, like just learning how to navigate all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, knowing how to sell and pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had to apply some of those skills, not knowing that I would have to do that eventually, but having to pitch different projects in the music industry and
Hmm.
try to, sell this idea to people that, are just kind of coming into the fold, or just kind of new to the idea. Like, just I learned how to sell working in banking. And so, I didn't know, and now, and to your point, now I know why God had me
Hmm.
kind of had me working in banking. But back then, I was just like, I don't want to be here. I'm supposed to be at working for a label. I'm supposed to be on the road with an artist. Like, and then I would kind of see little nuggets like here and there where God would show me like, I got you. Like I
Hmm.
remember, and I'll tell you this story. I remember working in banking, and Anita Baker walked into the bank where I was a personal
Wow.
banker,
Wow.
and I think she could see, because my body just kind of tensed up when I saw. I was just like, oh shit, this is the Anita Baker, like the Queen of Quiet Storm. So she went in. There were like two offices. I was the personal banker. There was the teller. She went in the office where the teller was to get some money or whatever, or look at her accounts or whatever. And then she came to where I was sitting, and she leaned on the window, and she was like, "So how can I help you, young man?" And I just started telling her how much I grew up on her music, and these are my favorite songs from the album. And she was kind of and I remember her telling myself and the other young lady that was there, she was just like, y'all are just so professional. You're young. I remember I think her son was in school in Atlanta at the time. So she's like, I
Hmm.
want to bring my son back up here so he can just see some young professional black people that are working in banking. And so all that to say, like, I feel like that was God kind of giving me a glimpse of what was to come, like meeting Anita Baker and just meeting certain people that would unknowingly kind of speaking to me. Like I remember Anita Baker saying, like, what are your plans from here? And I was like, well, actually, I want to go to law school and become an attorney and work in the entertainment industry. And she was just like, well, she's like, I think you can do it. Just in interacting with you here, I just feel like you're on your way. You're well on your way. And just hearing people like that say that, it's just it's crazy. So I I feel like God was kind of giving little nuggets here and there to show me, like, I got you. Like you're on your way. You just kind of have to stay consistent with where you are right now, and you'll
Yeah.
eventually get to where you're
Yeah.
trying to go. I feel like I'm still on that journey. I'm always looking for the next thing. Um, and so, like I said, I'm working on a couple things right now that I prefer not to talk about, but I'm like trying to, get to that next level in my career and in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to shout out because I saw my brother Darren DeWitt Henson jumped in the room. Um, one of our Black Hollywood actors. Just wanted to shout him out real quick.
I'm looking at these comments. What's up, Imani? Cesare? Limo. I love Limo.
I met
Can
Limo
I
a long time ago
can I just
on the
say
Philly side of
Limo
things.
Limo has a song called Don't Have a Reason. I still play that record like
Mm.
at least a few times a month. Like that's probably in my on the Apple Music replay thing, that's probably one of my top play songs. I just
So
wanted her to know if she's still here.
Limo was. I asked Limo to come on my show a while ago, and at during that time, she was in transition to
Okay.
go to move. So you hear me now. I'll be circling back around to ask you to come back on. I've always thought you were a dope musician, and I can't wait to talk to you, dig in your head, see what you're talking about.
Shout out to Tatiana too. Tatiana worked with us for a brief stint back in the day at Sony. She was one of our interns. She was a really great intern, by the way. Shout out to her. I'm trying to see who else is in. Uh, Again, this is like I don't do this often, so I'm like, but yeah, okay,
That's good. That's good that I was able to get you on here. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and
This is
this is
fun.
not unusual. A lot of people tell me they don't do the live thing.
Yeah, I'm like, I just like to post on my stories and keep it moving.
Jared
So
LeGrare Studio. Have you ever checked out his work on his YouTube?
absolutely, Jaron is a friend, and I really love like his approach to
Yes.
just social media and just music. It's so
Hmm.
different. Like not
Hmm.
everybody is able to effectively do what he's doing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a huge supporter of his platform.
Yeah.
Somebody said prayers for Anita. We ain't seen her since she canceled that Mother's Day concert. I don't have anything to say about that. I just know I've seen her 4 times and she was amazing. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And I wanna sprinkle some love on her right now.
yeah,
Um, she was another one that I fell in love with, and I focused on hard. When I discovered her, and I don't think I discovered her until that Rapture project. But she
yeah.
had been around for a while. But the
Right.
Rapture project really grabbed me in a way, and then it made me
Okay.
branch out from there. And one of the things that I take away from Ms. Anita Baker, the legend,
Hmm.
is her drive and her diligence in the quality of sound. She
Yeah.
is very, very strict on
Very particular.
the quality of sound, her approach to things, and her professionalism when it comes to what we are going to receive as the recipient of the art. I so appreciate that from her.
Yeah, she's another one that if it ain't right, it ain't coming out.
That's right.
And I mean, that's probably why we haven't gotten an album from her in 20 something years.
Hmm.
Um, but once you get that body of work though, it's just like you glad that you waited.
Hmm.
I'm still Compositions is probably my favorite Anita Baker record. Top to
Why does
bottom.
everybody sleep on that one? They sleep on that one.
I don't know. I mean, I think just um the common music listener, they go to Rapture because that's like her. I guess people would consider that her magnum opus. And that was the one that won all the Grammys, and it went. I don't know if it's diamond, but I know it sold like 8 million, and But compositions to me, it's just like
Yes,
it's a
Limo,
song
perfect love
like
affair. Yes.
Perfect Love Affair, No One to Blame,
Yes.
um, More Than
So
You Know.
inspiration. All of
Uh,
it.
just the
But I think
whole
I
record,
think
like
my favorite one on there is More Than You Know. More
yeah,
Than You
More
Know is
Than You
probably my
Know.
favorite one on there.
If you have to, they call her the Queen of Quiet Storm, right?
Yeah.
If I have to pick an album that embodies that title for her,
Hmm.
it's Compositions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would literally put that on and just ride around Nashville at like 10:30 at
Hmm.
night with the
Yeah.
windows down
Hmm.
and just it's just me and my thoughts in that record. Like it's
Yeah.
just chef's kiss with that album. And I told her
Yeah.
that too. That is my favorite album of yours. And
Yeah.
I wish you would perform more songs from it.
Yeah.
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 So
And it's so funny, you hear, you have your artist that you love, and there's a project that you may gravitate toward, but it's not accepted so much by the,
yeah.
the masses. And when I finally do meet people that I admire and I can have that conversation with them,
Yeah.
and I like to get into why do they believe it wasn't received as
Hmm.
well as other people may think. And
Yeah.
I it's always different from different artists, but I just love their input into why do they think. And 9 times out of 10, it's primarily probably their most personal project.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It that makes me think of a tweet that Jermaine Dupri put out, I guess yesterday or the day before, where he was saying, um, paraphrasing again, people don't want to hear your experimental stuff. They just want to hear what
Mm,
they want to hear whatever they however they fell in love with you, they want to continue to hear that.
yeah.
And I kind of saw people going at him in the comments on Twitter in reference to his comment. And I think to a certain extent that's true. Like
Yeah.
there are only a few artists that are given the opportunity to really experiment. Like Beyonce, I feel like, of course, we kind of go wherever she's gonna go. I think she's kind
Hmm.
of built that trust with a lot of her
But she's also
fans.
ahead of the game. She's also a
Right,
trendsetter, so she creates the trend. So wherever she's
right,
going to go, people are going to follow.
right. But there are other artists where it's just like, okay, we want that same. We don't want you to veer off too far. Like we want the same sound, of course,
Yeah,
updated to wherever, whatever time we're in, but don't veer off too much because. And I always try to. This is another controversial comment, but I don't think we're as eclectic or open minded as we
I
like to
agree.
say.
I agree.
Um, it's just like it's so many artists that are doing eclectic things nowadays, and they're kind of going against the grain, and we hardly ever support it.
Yeah,
And it's just like every black person is not going to sing R&B. Every black person is not going to be a rapper and do hip hop. Like there
right.
are people that grew up on country. They want to sing country. They want to sing rock. I just think I want us to kind of really be intentional about opening ourselves up to just things that we aren't used to. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
but
And
that's a
and
whole
and I
nother conversation.
and I think that just openness in general, just in general, across the board in your life, in your person, in your spirituality, openness gets you more favor
Yeah,
in my book. Yeah.
I've
And
I've had to. I've definitely had to tell myself several times over the years, like, Timon, just be open. Like, don't think that it's going to happen this particular way. Like, you
yeah,
have to, like, just kind of be open to different opportunities. I've had to, sometimes I'll give myself a couple days to think about, like, if an opportunity comes across my desk and I'm like, sometimes my first instinct is to say, oh, this is not something that I'm used to, or this is not something I've ever done before.
hmm,
So my first instinct is to say, nah, and then I'll kind of pull back and say, all right, just think about it, let it marinate for a little bit.
yeah,
And then a lot of times when I kind of do it afraid, I end up telling myself on the back end of it, like, oh, this was actually dope.
yeah,
And then an
yeah,
opportunity comes from that, So to your point, just kind of being open and not allowing what I'm used to dictate how I move forward is just, I think, has gotten me a lot of the opportunities that I've had in my life thus far. So yeah.
yeah. I actually had a thought about openness when you were talking about how you veered off the path that you thought you were going to be on, and
Mhm.
like working at the bank, and
Yeah.
Miss Baker walked in, and that was a sign from the creator that you were on the right path.
Yeah.
Going back to openness with that, if you weren't open for that, or to receive or know that, have that knowledge of that, you
Mhm.
wouldn't have looked at that as a sign that you were going to be going on to greater pastures. So
Yeah.
being open and having your vessel open to receive those different thoughts and that inspiration that way, it may have discouraged you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
openness is a big tool in spirituality and growth and progression.
Yes, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. People are checking in on this live.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
so
this
thankful
is
for y'all tuning in because you didn't have to, but I'm glad you're here.
yeah.
And me talking to Mr. Bacon, I'm a geek because I find him to be so fascinating, and I think he's very proficient at what he does. So I love to
Thank
talk
you.
to people that I think are
Thank you.
proficient. Yeah. Do you have a favorite episode, like a favorite guest that came on? Maybe you received some inspiration, or the conversation was just beyond where you thought it was going to go.
Ooh. I love the Kelly Nicole Price episode. Not Kelly Price the singer, but Kelly Nicole Price the
Hmm.
writer slash singer. that wrote with Missy a lot back in the day, and she's at
Hmm.
Berkeley now. That's one of Phil's really good friends, and so she's actually one of my favorite episodes because she was no holds barred, and she just kind of gave her experience in this business, but she didn't care. She wasn't super PC. Like she just kind of
Yeah.
put it out there. She's one of my favorites. Of course, Rodney Jerkins is to be able to talk to one of the architects behind one of my favorite albums of all time, Full Moon.
Hmm.
That was everything for me. And then Earth, Wind, and Fire, definitely one of my favorites. I'm still kicking myself that I missed the Tevin Campbell episode.
Mm.
I was actually in Vegas at the Anita Baker show, and I could not get back to Nashville in enough time to make that taping.
Okay.
Um, but even with me not being in that episode, that's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I have a few favorites, but those probably be my top.
I always enjoy like some of the artists that I love that I don't think get their just due when they come on your show. You guys
Mhm.
shine that flashlight on them, or the spotlight, not the flashlight, the spotlight, and give them their due. Like Regina Bell. Oh my God. So
Oh, forgot about that one.
Regina Bell, my aunt and her husband at the time had a school,
Okay.
and the kind of school that they had back in the day, we probably couldn't have it today. uh, it was called the Nyerere Educational Institute, and it was named after the president of Tanzania at the time, President Nyerere, and some of the funding came from Tanzania for the school.
Okay.
So what they would do, they would pipeline children from Tanzania, or not
Hmm.
even just Tanzania, Africa, over to
Hmm.
the United States to receive an American education and
Wow.
and push them on to historical black colleges. So it was
Yeah.
basically a pipeline of education.
Yeah.
And it was in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and it was around the corner from Rutgers. And Regina Bell walked in the door and asked, which this is when she was in school, if she could intern for the school.
Uh-huh.
And her and my uncle and my aunt became good friends. So fast forward, and you know, I was in the mix. I was a kid. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. But fast forwarding years down the line, when I went to college, Regina Bell was, you know, she was on the chart. She was touring,
Yeah.
and my uncle brought it to my attention. Hey, Regina Bell's going to be down there in your town. And I went to a historical black college too. I went to Virginia Union in Richmond.
Okay.
And Regina's coming down. I know you probably don't remember her, but I'm going to get you some tickets because I'm still cool with them, you know, her
Yeah.
camp, and I know her road manager and everything. And so every time Regina Bell would come through the state of Virginia, I would go see her and I would go backstage and actually parlay with her, like kick it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get the full gist of that at the time. But now when I look back on it, I'm like, damn, I was hanging out with Regina Bell, the
That's
Oscar
fine.
award winning singer. Like, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regina was, I mean, Miss Bell. I cannot call that lady by her first name. Give respect where respect is due. That's, I'm sitting here now like, I remember just hearing, like, Show Me the Way is one of my favorite Regina Bell songs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listen to The Quiet Storm every night. You were bound to hear a Regina Bell record. Watching Aladdin and hearing, just she's a part of the fabric of a lot of our childhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to sit there and say, I'm gonna make some sweet potato pie for y'all, and next time y'all like what? It's just it's truly an honor, like to be able to use the platform that we've built to your point, give in our own way,
Yeah.
give back, and to
Yeah.
let these people know like y'all matter, y'all are important to just culture. Period. A lot
Yeah.
of us would not be here if it weren't for y'all. And so that if for nothing else, I am just so glad that I can be a part of just something where I can tell these people to their face like y'all matter, because we don't know a lot of times we don't know what these artists are going through, and after we've lost the Whitneys and the Michaels and the Princes and that kind of thing,
Right.
my whole crusade is just to get to some of these artists and tell them just how much they matter to not just me but so many of us. And so
Yeah.
it's truly an honor to be able to like sit with her and Mickey Howard.
Hmm.
And I always say that I feel like God has been, back to the spiritual thing, God has literally been having me prepare for these moments all my life. Like I grew up reading credits and
Same here.
researching all these albums, and people would always say, well, he's 12, why is he listening to Mickey Howard? Or why is he listening to Peebo Bryson at 12? Like, shouldn't you be listening to Usher? I'm like, well, I listen to them too,
Hmm.
but my family just made sure that we knew who came before. We knew the greats, and my
Right.
mom always said, she was like, you want to be in music, you can't just you can't be one track minded with music. You need to listen to everything.
Amen. Amen.
So yeah,
And then, I had a conversation. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was explaining my theory on music appreciation and how it comes to be with an individual. You like what you like, but the roots of what you like expand beyond your years
absolutely.
naturally, just simply because if you have a musical household and you're playing, and it's just arts in general, whatever you're
Mhm.
exposed to or whatever your
Yeah,
parents absorbed by osmosis, you're absorbing it too because you're
yeah,
there. And so that becomes a part of your the recipe of what you're going to gravitate towards,
yeah,
whether you really know it or not. Your musical taste or your theatrical taste, your
mhm,
artistic taste, whatever it may be, expands way beyond just what you see in front of you or what is tangible to you in your formidable years.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always say, like, just in having conversations about back in the day versus now, I do feel like everything is so fragmented now that it's kind of hard for someone that might be growing up in 2025 to they have to be super intentional about learning about what came before them. I know,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you can attest to this as well, like the radio stations did a better job of playing records that, like, I knew who Earth, Wind and Fire was because of my family, but they also play Earth, Wind and Fire next to like a Whitney Houston record or
True.
LL Cool J. Like they were going to get that old school cut in at some point, and we were exposed to all of that stuff, and so we grew up wanting to know more about it. BET did a good job back in the day of just playing videos, of course, of what was happening at that current moment, but they were going to throw back to an old, I don't know, LTD video, or
Hmm.
like they were exposing us to stuff that we might not have, stuff that they were super intentional about exposing us to stuff that came before us. And so I just
Right.
wish that it was the same in
Yeah.
that regard today.
Yeah.
Because I talk to like my nieces and nephews sometimes, or like even some of my younger cousins, and like I have to introduce them to who Brandy is or Faith Evans.
Hmm.
And it's not because they haven't heard it in and around the family functions. It's just that they're so bogged down with everything else that's happening for their generation on social media, and everything is so
Right.
fragmented.
Right.
It's just like they're not being exposed in the way that we once were back in the day. So yeah.
And I think that not that I think, I know that's why what you do is so important
Mhm.
because we don't have a show like a Soul Train anymore. We don't
Yes.
have an Arsenio Hall show anymore.
Well,
We don't have these platforms that showcase, you know, the chocolate ones. For the most part, we don't get a shine. And if we're left to people not paving the way to create platforms, we wouldn't see it at all. We
yeah.
might hear it, we may have questions about it, we may have to seek it out, but there is. no more presentation of, hey, this is what this is. Maybe you should check this out. This is something new. Maybe you should absorb this. So I damn sure appreciate what you guys do and showing
Man,
off,
thank you.
our people, our talent, especially the legends, because we wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for their existence and the struggles that they went through and the ancestors before them.
For you even saying that, it's just crazy because I grew up. My Saturdays growing up was instead of watching cartoons, I was at the TV waiting on Soul Train to come on
Hmm.
at 11.
Hmm.
That night at 7 p.m. we were watching Showtime at the Apollo. I would
Hmm.
literally have a conniption as a kid if I could not watch Video Soul every night at 8 p.m. on
Yeah.
BET, knowing I had to be in the bed by 10 o'clock. But I'm watching
Hmm.
that 2 hour block of videos on
Hmm.
Video Soul. So it's just like for you to even say you're kind of doing something in the same vein as that, it's just huge to me. And
Yeah.
again, that goes back to you just never know how God is gonna continue to write your story. It's just I really don't take that lightly at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the whole, just to put it in context, I remember it was summertime and we were going to my aunt's cookouts, and I remember thinking, I can't wait to get to her ribs. And flashback, who's that dance? It was
Yeah.
all over the place, all
Uh-huh.
over the place. It wasn't until I watched Soul Train and I was like, whoa, that's who sings that song?
Yeah.
That's who Tina Marie is? Wow.
Yeah.
So that's kind of sort of the same portal that you guys created with We Sound Crazy. We get to put eyes on the artist. But because everything's viral now, and it's not so much just eyes, it's we get to look behind. We get to
Yeah.
know what the inside is. We get to hear the behind the story. And so
Yeah.
that's another facet, I guess, of where we are in life, of the unveiling of. And I
Yeah. I
appreciate it.
mean, I mean, just where we are, podcast. Like I think we've seen with Mariah Carey and with Cardi B. Like, I've Mariah Carey being on this many podcasts. I never thought that she would go that route, but it's just where we are right now. And if you
Hmm.
want the people to know about what's going on, you have to go to those platforms. I want her to come on We Sound Crazy
I wish
because
you
I
would.
listen. I'm manifesting that. Whatever we got to do, I want to be a part of the process of making sure that that happens. But um, yeah, it's just where we are, and
Okay.
I'm just glad to be a part of something that makes people smile. It's not stressing people out. I think we all stressed out by just everything that's happening in the world. So when I go in the comments and I see people say, "Oh my God, I enjoyed this interview," or it's just it really brings a little light to their
Hmm.
situation. Man, that's all I can ask for is just to be a
Yeah.
part of something that's super positive and that's
Yeah.
making people happy.
So you said a magic word. I'm not going to tell you what the magic word is right now. I'm going to bring it
Okay.
up a little bit later. But I have one more thing that I want to talk to you about before I will activate that magic word that you mentioned.
Okay.
Um, I pay attention to your posts. I watch your stories, and there's some political things in there. And,
Cool.
you know, that's my wheelhouse. I love that.
Okay.
So I will ask you, what in the climate that we're in and what we're dealing with,
Mhm.
do you want to offer any advice, words of encouragement, or anything you need to or want to offer as far as us dealing in the moment that we're in now? How to keep hope, how to persevere, or be in the future with where we are now?
I will say stay vigilant.
Hmm.
Um, give yourself opportunity to like steal away from everything that's happening because you if I just feel like we'll all be going crazy if all we're watching is all the stuff that's happening in this political climate. Give yourself an opportunity to just kind of take a break from it, but also just try to educate yourself. Like for me, I can't say that I'm learning because I've been out of school for so many years, and so just trying to learn about different things that I didn't know before, and really paying attention to what's going on, because I think it's all, if it hadn't hit our front doorstep, it's going to hit our front doorstep at some point, unfortunately. And so I just think we gotta keep our eyes on what's happening, but also just try to balance it out with just whatever makes you happy. I know for me, I got all these records in here. I'm sure you've seen it on my stories as well. Like, that's my happy place. Like,
Yeah.
probably when I log off here, I'm probably gonna sit in the middle of my floor and just play records all day until
Mm.
I feel like I don't want to hear records no more. Whatever makes you happy, just balance that out. Like, balance out the craziness with just whatever makes you happy. That's the only thing that I can really say right now, because if
Okay.
not, you will literally go crazy.
True. Very true. Very true. So the magic word that you mentioned was manifestation.
Okay.
And in my platform, I normally get my guests to manifest something for themselves or for others. And I know you just wanted to manifest Mariah Carey coming on the show, but
Uh-huh.
we're going to put that one to the side. Yes, that's a
Okay.
manifestation, but I want you to do another, and this is the one official for Conversations with Chike Evans. What is your manifestation, sir?
My manifestation, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without telling all my business. But I will say it like this. My manifestation is that I will get the results that I've been working so hard on for the past like 2 years this year. Well, next year. Going into
Okay.
2026, what I've been working so hard on for the past couple years, it will come to pass in 2026.
Fruit from the harvest is a big thing. It's a big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So
Well, I
so
want
that
that for you.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, brother. Thank you for
Man,
coming on my show. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for what your contribution to the world is. And
yeah,
I want you continued success.
thank
And
you.
if you guys ever pull in any guest hosts, please, your brother up in the north in New Jersey, will come down to Nashville and come play with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for even thinking of me.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
like this means a lot. I don't do this often. So for you to even reach out and ask, like, it means a lot. So thank you. This was fun.
Oh, thank you. And you have a great, blessed rest of your day. And
You too.
I'll be tuning in.
Bet. All right. Talk to you
All right,
soon.
brother. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
You too.